Okay, welcome to Forward Focus. It is May 31st. Welcome to summer. We are going to take a look at the overall market here to begin with. Also, I have some spiffy handouts for you guys at the end of session today. This is my first time loading handouts into GoToWebinar, so I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I uploaded them, so I don't know if they gave them to you when you logged in or if they give them to you when you log out. But somewhere you're supposed to have handouts. So I just saw that as I was starting the program. They're available now. Awesome. In the chat box. Oh, perfect. See, brand new cool thing I discovered. So those are the brand new templates for the Phoenix and Avalanche for you guys. So you can print them out, post them on your wall, whatever. I'm going to actually start with those right now. Let me pull those up here first. I just want to show you guys these quick. Move over here. So these are the templates that we're going to be looking at, and you're going to find these strategies all over the place. The Dow just gave a really nice little avalanche on the 1-minute chart, had a Phoenix earlier around 10:15. Even though this looks really cluttered, what I did was just try to get most of the pertinent information in here for you. So some of these things might not be perfect when you're looking for strategies. For example, A to B, you want them to be at least the same amount of time, the correction compared to the upside swing. Sometimes they're twice as long, sometimes they're 1.5, sometimes they're 1. Any of those is fine. When they go past twice as long, then your risk of failure increases. It's more likely to break down. So that becomes kind of a do or die point. The 76.4% Fibonacci fan is from this low to this high. So ideally, your first pullback here should be the 50% fan or the 61.8% fan. And then the second pullback will be into the 76.4% fan. I should actually add 50 or 61.8% there, but they're not always. So that's one there can be a little bit of flubbing on, but it's going to help you with avoiding some of the early or too late triggers. So it's just going to help with time development. Momentum shift here, 2-wave count. This is going to be usually what you want to look for. Sometimes you'll get like an inverse head and shoulders though. So that is perfectly fine as well. Again, two moves on the correction is the minimum though. If you only got one, you probably don't have the time development. And it's more likely that you might be buying a bounce. Let's see, grab my pen, keep choosing highlighter. So you might be more likely to buy a bounce and then have it get stuck and then go into another pullback. So 2-wave count. And then of course, target level. If you have a V pivot low, target of 100%, impulse move, it might only go to 76.4 if you're dealing with a correction and a larger downtrend. Rounded low, a lot of times you're going to go past 100%. So those are just some added basics here to pay attention to at the Phoenix. So this is just your really rapid overview of the strategy. And then of course, Avalanche is the reverse. So I'll show you here on let's see here. I'm going to show you the Dow because the Dow had, this is an avalanche here, but it pulled up a little bit more. But what you'll notice is that most of the trades here are still in common. Oh, where did I put my picture? I'm going to show you that quick. So here's the avalanche. And so on the NASDAQ, notice the trades that are common here. We've got the downswing, the upswing. So downswing is just about 3/4 of one of these sections. Upswing is about 1.5 or so, 2. So you've got the time development's good. You've got 2 wave count on the downside, 2 wave count on the upside. This is a little bit crazy. The Dow was a little bit smoother, but again, you're looking for the main concept in here. So this is what we're looking at. 2 waves down, 2 waves up, and 2 waves down. Same move. This is a perfect example of an avalanche. So really nice core move here. You'll notice on this one though, our fans aren't too useful. If I put the fan on this one. So fan from absolute low to absolute high puts you in right there. So that doesn't really work. But in more cases than not, it will. So again, not everything is going to line up. The template that I gave you is like your picture perfect strategy. So a lot of times there's going to be something that's going to be a little bit off, but if everything else is lined up, then you're good to go. Also, during this section here, decline in volume is good too. I should add that to the template also. I didn't put volume on there, but that's another one. Here's a little baby avalanche within the little larger continuation too. Oh, we're already down on a 15-second chart, but this is another little baby avalanche coming out of the trading range. So the shoulder on a head and shoulders pattern is also called an avalanche right here. And so this one is actually the 2 waves and then a little bitty baby avalanche within the baby avalanche. So downswing, avalanche, notice the measured move right there. So you can find it on any time frame, any market. We're clear down on a 15-second chart here. But it happens on your weekly charts, your monthly charts, every single time frame and market under the sun. Okay, so we are going to pull back and look at the bigger time frames to start with. So here is our wide megaphone. We're coming off 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth pivot high here. And we've talked about this for the last couple of weeks, the correction. So first correction was kind of some of the smaller impulse moves, typical smaller impulse move, but the larger time frames have bigger impulse moves as well. So we were looking at potential to go even further. And that is indeed what we are seeing happening. And it's happening very much like it did last time, where we didn't have a huge correction before it led to a continuation. It's just a little bitty smaller correction. Those can be harder because sometimes momentum shifts and then it pops back up. So you don't have as much confirmation that, hey, it's going to go to a really rapid continued move. A lot of times the momentum will shift compared to the original move if this little base here is tiny. So if it's spaced out a little bit longer like that, you'd have more of a stronger drop. So because it had the shorter move, just like last time right here, we're kind of getting a little bit of a shift compared to the first drop. So we're considering this to be wave 2. A lot of times this will go for a third move here. So that's what I'm looking to happen over the next couple of weeks, just to continue it. This one did a pretty extreme one. There was oil. Let me, yeah, kind of. Let me show you oil. It's kind of the same pattern. Just a little bit of a variation here, but I want you to see a little bit what this looks like. So give me just a second. I don't have live charts over here on oil because this is my teaching computer, but I've got it on my trading computer. So I'm just moving it over here. There we go. So here's oil. And you can see a nice measured move here, but this is what we're looking at. So see how this moved here and then it has like the smaller little drop, continues lower. So these little smaller moves are pretty normal when you have a stronger drop and then kind of goes a little bit faster than you want, kind of shifts the momentum. We've seen a lot of examples of this lately. This isn't the perfect example, but it gives you the idea of what we're looking at here. So sometimes it will go and do a little bit of a bigger push after the third one and then go to that fourth low. That's actually what we saw happening on oil too. So looking for this to bounce here into next week and then pull lower again. Here is the 240-minute time frame. What you'll notice is there's no reversal pattern forming here yet. Things are really strong still on the downside. What I was looking for yesterday is this action here with these three lows and wondering, hey, is this going to shift now and give us that extra little bounce? So I was still expecting us to go lower into today, was not expecting it to go as fast as it did. So we had a pretty rapid sell-off overnight. I didn't even check to see if there was news on it. It felt like news, but I'm not sure if that's what we got. So here's what we were looking at as we were going into the close yesterday. You can see, pretty similar upside move, corrective type of move compared to the past before we had a pullback. So what I was expecting was this would go for a 2B, but it would go more slowly like this. So it would have a more gradual move. Was it tariff stuff? That's not surprising. So we went for the two waves. It just did it much, much faster. So a slower move would have allowed this to shift and have a little bit better of a bounce going into the beginning part of next week. I still think we're going to get that, but it's going to take a little bit more work to get there now, because this is what we would consider to be a steep 2B. So I was looking for a normal 2B, which would have the low here, and then go for a slightly lower low into today, end of the day today, and then give us the bounce next week. So with the steep one, it has the two waves, has the pause just around the previous low, but it's not going to have as easy of a time trying to turn around. So what that's going to mean is that things are just going to stay in scalp mode today. Unfortunately, I know that stinks because that's what we had all day yesterday. And we've seen a lot of days that have been like that, where the action has been taking place overnight, unfortunately. But that's what we're going to see here today too, I think, is just continuation of shorter term day trade action, but looking to hold this zone as we go into next week, giving us a little bit of upside. Because of this momentum, it could go and do a third lower low early into the week before it tries to turn around. That would kind of shift the momentum a little bit more. Not really seeing anything as far as pattern wise yet to do that. We just have the two wave impulse move exhaustion here, but it's easy for that to still try to slink to some slightly lower lows to try to shift the momentum on a bigger time frame. So even when this bounces and it does hold the pivot low like that, what tends to happen is it will have a slower overall move coming off of it and has a better chance to try to go and do retest. So oil actually gives an example. Let me pull that back up here. You can see here where it did have the two waves and actually held it a little bit, kind of pulled it back up. But the difference is that this was rounding off to start with. This wasn't going into the low for the first time. So that was a pivot low back there in the overall market. So it makes it harder to really get going here. So here you can see this was a pivot low. Even though it had the three lows, 1, 2, 3, kind of shifted, again overnight, but kind of shifted. It was not as much of a shift. So I'm looking for this to again have smaller time frame setups in here. Things like phoenixes, looking for just patterns on like a 15-minute time frame, and then the tick charts mostly. So we go down to the 30-minute, still not seeing anything. 10-minute, there's your little phoenix. So like when we compare that to what you've got going on oil, essentially it's this two-wave move right here. It's just a really ugly one with the megaphone type of look for it. But that's where we're kind of at similar zones here right now. So let's look at our tick charts. Tick charts momentum is still strong too on the tick charts. Sometimes you'll have a difference. Sometimes the tick charts will be stronger. Sometimes the time frame charts will be stronger. It just depends on when the major market moves happen. Right now, they happen overnight, so we've got pretty much comparable momentum on both the tick charts and the time frame charts. Not quite a measured move on this low here, so that also allows this to have the potential to kind of push lower as we go into the very beginning of next week before we end up doing more of a correction off of that zone. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see some slightly lower lows into Monday. Actually, I would prefer it if it did that because that would allow this to kind of flush out a little bit better. But throughout most of next week, I'm going to be looking for that next bounce like we saw back in here. Maybe not to this extreme, but another type of move to correct off of that zone. There will also be this congestion in here. So there's a lot of price support in here. Let's put our fib retracements on here also and our fans so we can put this into perspective too. So we are right at, we were right at that 50% zone. So this is a good fan support level here. And as far as retracements go, we are almost at that 38.2. So that slightly lower low, we were talking about the potential intraday, that would bring it into that 38.2% support. So this is the zone I'd start to get more aggressive on intraday buy setups as it comes into here. I would still consider that to be holding the 50% Fibonacci fan because you can get the bounce here and then still hold and pull up into here. In fact, if we move this, just, oops, wrong one, slightly, let's move that out of the way, to that second high, that would line up with that 50% with the 38.2% retracement too. These are both comparable highs, so you want to look at both of them. This one lines up with the 38.2, so that's why I want to mark that zone. But this one would line up with the 38.2% Fibonacci retracement, so it's also important to pay attention to that one too. So really, really good zone of support right here on the daily charts. And today we are still getting the bears moving. Don't have any adjustments here on the fans on that one. We are right at the 61.8% on the current move down. So with this kind of V type of bottom with W, the previous lows are going to be a support zone here because you've got pretty rapid momentum back and forth. So intraday, a little avalanche here or 1, 2, 3 back down into those previous lows would be pretty typical. It's kind of going a little further than you would get for an avalanche. Avalanche would usually start right about here. You can see it's going a little bit faster to get to try to form that. Let's go check out some of the other markets here. I'm going to pull up wheat because I know some of you have been following wheat. We've got a nice little two-wave correction here on wheat. This is the 30-minute. I'd be looking for this to go into a higher high to do a 2T. Let's kind of back this up a little bit. So here's the daily and here's the weekly. So weekly on wheat, we had the 2B a couple of weeks ago here. Really nice move off of that 2B low. Is a pretty much a measured move support zone as well. And now we are kind of dealing with wave 2 coming out of this. We had a smaller 2B also. This is really interesting here. On this, notice we go to this slightly lower low. We talked about this in League of Traders yesterday. See how it goes to really just a teeny tiny, slightly lower low, and then it bounces, and then it goes to that lower low with that extra 2B. So what this does is this increases the strength of the 2B. If this just held with the slightly lower low here and tried to go, there's a greater risk that it could have gone into more of a move like this and then broken lower again. So the fact that that did that extra smaller little 2B is what really turned this around. And this has room to still keep coming up. I'm expecting this to come up to 540-ish on the larger time frame here. Let's go and look at the 240 here. Maybe not quite 540, maybe like 535. I think we've got room for that to go like this into a new high here. It could even go and surpass it if it treats this like a two-wave correction. Then it will put this as a measured move. So you'll have to see when it gets to that kind of midway point right there. How does it react to it? And gold and JNUG. Hold on, let me go. We'll pull up JNUG here first. Got that open. So JNUG is doing that little 2B. Kind of went to that slightly lower low we were looking at last week. Testing the support a bit better. So that is what rounded things off and gave you that better buy signal here. So what we were looking at last week was this move here. And it's kind of coming down, hitting slightly lower lows, going into this previous low. And now that extra shift. And we had the same thing happening on the intraday chart that I just talked about on wheat, where it went to the lower low here, right? With the two-wave move like that. But then it went and did that extra shift. That extra shift with the light volume, that's what brought the stronger reaction here. So whenever you get it where it's still kind of strong movement into a lower low, if it goes and does that extra, I call it a blurb. Some people can also call it a flush because it takes out previous lows, takes out previous buyers. But when you get that extra little blurb there, that's what drives the stronger moves. That's exactly what we saw happening on wheat here. So wheat had a good move into a lower channel. It didn't have like a really clear setup there, though. It was a megaphone. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 was a buy here. So it came up into 5. Here's how I label them. 0, 1, 2, 3. 4 is your buy zone. So it came up into 5. And what you want to see at 5 is for it to hug that and then break higher. So this didn't hug it. It pulled back. That means that you're more likely to go to slightly lower low and go into 6. And so that's what we ended up seeing happening here. And then it took off. And that 6 move here, that creates a shift that goes into another little 2B right there. So let me show you the 2B pattern. I'm going to make updated slides for the 2B too. I just don't have it done yet. So updated, I know the updated ones are even more noisy than the last ones, and that's just because I include so much more information on it. Let's see, where's my 2B? Here we go. So see 2B, clean, 2-wave move, overall channel shifts to a lower low. So when we look at JNUG, see if I can make that smaller up there, maybe. How can I fit that in there? There we go. Make this the intraday chart. Oops. Come on. I know, I'm going to go down to smaller time frame here. We're going to look at this on not quite a 30. 60-minute here. So it's this extra little move here. So here's your 2B. So it goes into retesting lower low zone, goes into a base, goes into a lower low, and then it also has an extra little shift here. And these extra shifts keep turning things around and flushing it so that it allows for a really nice bounce. So when we look at the pattern on the 2B, here's that core move, previous low, lower low, and then what we saw was that shift, and that brings in even stronger buying. Do I think the split will have a positive or negative effect on price direction afterwards? It's been a while since I've followed splits. We don't have them happening as often these days as you did like 10 years ago. 10 years ago, they were like, it seemed like there was something splitting every single day that was a big name. So I'm not sure how much of an impact it's going to have on it. In the past, it does have some. It's kind of in some ways, it tends to almost normalize things a little bit more. So you don't have as much of the really big rapid whip type of moves. So that is going to have a little bit of an impact. Let's go see what's the price for trading on this right now. Yeah, I don't know. I wish I had a good answer for you on that one. I'm not sure though. I think what you're probably going to see though is just some smoother movement coming back in. I don't think JNUG is particularly a messy thing to trade though. It tends to hold trends pretty well. How does this compare to gold? 1 second, I'll pull up a gold chart here. Gold is rolling over, by the way, so make sure you got that taken care of. Hey, that little pattern that we were just looking at in oil just now happened on the NQ, on the 50 tick. Crazy small time frame. Let me just show you really fast. I'm loading gold, so I'm going to show you this one quick. Look at that. Here's that shift, bounce, two wave down, up. Here's the Phoenix, bounce. This bounce stronger than oil did, but let me show you, same chart. See, here's oil. Look at that. It's just a 50 tick chart on the NQ, but exact same thing happening. Two wave move, and then you get this bounce. So when you see a rounded shift like this, bounces up, really, you want it to bounce a pretty decent amount compared to the downside move. And then you get the two wave to slightly lower low. This is a momentum reversal plus. So you get the momentum reversal pattern over here, and then you get the plus over here where it goes to slightly lower low. And that's usually going to bring in a pretty strong bounce. So that's actually a really good pattern. And here's what you have again, same pattern. You actually have a mini version here, momentum reversal plus, so it bounces pretty fast and then it goes for a bigger plus. But then this usually brings in pretty strong buying when it holds that two wave move. So little brief pattern lesson. It's an advanced strategy because essentially a lot of times this pivots really, really quickly. Usually what you're looking for is kind of lining this up with the channel. I can't draw a straight line here, but that's where you're looking for that to bounce. And it's pretty much a pure pivot play. A lot of times you don't have any additional rounding off at this low. It'll just bam, turn around. That's what makes it advanced because you're essentially jumping in at a support level without much for an additional confirmation. Okay, gold. Gold has a two-wave pullback on the weekly charts that we were looking at as pretty good support here the other day. Let me show you the weekly. Are you taking notes here, Bob? Uh-huh. My little guy's last day of school was yesterday. So I think I need like a trader summer camp, right? What? Wouldn't that be cool? Like a summer camp for little kids wanting to learn about the market. No, what do you mean no? I think it's an awesome idea. You know, when I was in high school, we actually had classes that taught about the markets, taught you about hedging and all of that stuff. But I grew up in Iowa, and so it was really important to understand futures hedging when you're dealing with farming and grain. So that actually was kind of like the really very basics of me getting started in learning about trading was through the grain markets. So here's what we've got going on the daily charts on gold. Here's a two-wave correction and a little bit of a phoenix right now. So nice turnaround here. I'm expecting this to kind of still continue to pull up here. Larger time frames, we are like closing in on the apex on the weekly and monthly time frame. Let me see. I'm going to post a weekly chart here so you guys can see that too. So what got you guys interested in the markets? Where did your interest first come from? Let's hear what you guys have to say while I'm grabbing this chart. Richard, your grandson is going to a video game playing and designer camp. That's actually what my son is doing here for summer camp too, starting next week. He's going to be designing, like doing robotic type of stuff too. At least part of it. He's kind of doing like everything. Every week, something different. Computer camp. It's like the cool thing, the cool kid thing to do these days, huh? So come on, what got you guys interested in the markets? I will let you post while I talk about gold here. So gold, this is that big wedge that I'm talking about. So we've got a two-way pullback here within this wedge. So the apex, those of you going back to school, apex is the midway point in your triangle. So as it closes around the apex, you're going to start to get breakouts happening. So this is where triangles can become really hard for traders because they can break out of the triangle, but then turn around. So a lot of traders will be like, oh, hey, buy the breakout. And yet they'll just get trapped in it. It will break and then it will pivot and turn right back around. Let me actually go. I'm going to do this so that I can draw on this chart better. So I need to grab this again here. So when you get a triangle, pretend I drew a straight line. um, I'm not a computer artist. I am a hands-on pen to paper and pencil artist. But here's our apex. So what happens with these triangles is that you'll get breakouts in one direction and you're just going for measured move on the smaller move because these can come back in and go and widen up the range so that you get a longer trading channel. So a lot of traders will look for breakouts of the triangle as a trigger, like here or here. And then they'll get in it, they'll stop, will be on the other side, and then it will flip and turn around on them, and then they get squished. So I never use the full triangle as a breakout trigger. I'm looking to play these smaller setups in here. And then if momentum shifts, great, I can get more. Like if this went and surged, then I know I'm going to be able to get more of a 1, 2, 3 for continuation. If it has a slower move on the move up, I know it's going to be more likely to turn and break down again. So I'm never looking at these triangles as saying, oh, it has to break one way or it has to break the other. Now, if You've got trend placement. Sometimes trend placement can give you a better idea the direction that it's going to go, but a lot of times it's not going to be a huge indicator. So like if this was an uptrend and you had your triangle in the middle, there's a bigger chance that it's going to break higher, but it could still pop higher, pull lower, and then go higher. So it can treat like the triangle like it's the first wave of a two-wave correction. So here's our answers. When you got started, trading had better odds than going to Vegas. Nice. Staying home from school and watching CNBC and always thought it was cool. Harvey, I was in 7th grade stock class. Oh, you had stock class in 7th grade too? And Comdisc was doubling and splitting and doubling and splitting. And I said, wow, this is cool. It seems to be a great retirement activity. Yeah, there's a lot of retirees that come into trading because it's something that engages your mind. You're here doing something, you're learning something new. So it is a fun activity for retirees. Math major in college led to interest in investing when I began to earn income after college. The markets were another puzzle to figure out. That is cool. I think, Harvey, I think I was a freshman in high school when they started offering that. And unfortunately, it wasn't offered to everybody. They really need to have investment classes in schools from a young age to really just encourage the habit and the knowledge from an early age. But it was really only people that were in the ag classes that got a lot of it. Karen, my husband did a class for IB high school kids on markets. When he asked, does anyone know what a CD is? They thought it was the music kind. Lots of stuff like that happened. See, exactly. Kids need to know this stuff. Not that they're going to become traders or anything, but just to know basics. I had no idea as far as like what basic investment stuff was. Way too many clueless kids. Let's see, we've got a little time here. I've been doing a lot of teaching you guys in forward focus lately. Let's go look at some of the Forex pairs really fast. Where did I put my Forex list? It's hiding. Here we go. I moved all my charts around. Whoops. Euro dollar has been so tricky lately. You can see it's actually trying to go for that momentum reversal plus type of move, but it's not as clean. So you can't see two clean two ways down. Here's the momentum reversal. So here's the plus part. So that's what it's trying to do. Usually you'd get a little phoenix in here. Again, we're thinking of the spirit of the pattern that I showed you guys earlier, even though it doesn't look perfect. It's the same idea. It'd just be better if you saw clear two waves down. But I haven't been doing much with the euro dollar lately because it's just gotten so messy. You can see here the larger time frames. I do think it's getting to a do or die point, so we should start to see momentum increase pretty soon on this. It is at a point where it's going to break this zone. I am still favoring the downside, but Not totally ruling out the upside because I kind of thought the downside would go faster. So what is happening with this trying to turn around now is that it's kind of trading this like it's that 2B where this was the first two lows, the first three lows, and then it's trying to shift here. So if this breaks higher, I suspect we are going to get really strong momentum coming after this. Actually, you know what? I'm starting to turn my bias around on here just because of the way this has acted over the last couple of weeks, and I was expecting this to go faster. So what this is a shift then to trying to get that selling going in now. So because it's kind of hanging on a little bit longer, that's starting to shift my bias. So even though you guys might not see that pattern in here, what I'm looking at is this way this congestion is moving. So this continues to shift further. We're going to get that little base that can pop this fast. So we might see this break here sharply. Just need to see something setting up on a smaller daily time frame. We don't quite have it yet. So smaller intraday charts, I would focus on a buy and then watch to see if we can get that little extra shift going on the daily chart to bring that up. Basically congesting along the upper end of that channel is what we want to see. When you go into midway zones in the market, I know we talked about this a lot, but when you go into a midway zone where you have halfway pullback like that, it can go either way, especially when this is a downtrend here and then it's trying to reverse. It can go either way here. So you can get things that will pop up and then go into a longer base sideways, or it can go and do even a lower low where you get that measured move. And a lot of times it comes down to what happens right here. So when this is tilted like this becomes a wipeout zone. And we can thank Harvey for helping me come up with that name. But it's a wipeout zone where it can go either way. And we saw this happening in the overall market. Oh, was it yesterday? Day before? It was yesterday. I don't know. I posted it in the room. And sure enough, at that exact point, that's the point that it turned and it ended up going higher instead of lower. But it was the same idea. It could have easily broken to the downside too. So when it's a nice solid move like this, where it holds the low like that, then it's a clear short. But when it's tilted, you have a greater chance it could go either way. The one tilted way that is predominantly to the downside is if this has a time correction or price correction and then a time correction and then goes. So that was that do or die point for that to go at that level. And it just couldn't get going. It couldn't get going that fast. So ideally, this would have sold off right there for the second move down. The reason it was harder was because you had the slightly higher low there. So when that kind of rounds off like that, that increases the risk that this can pop. And that risk is increasing as we're going forward. And I guess you wouldn't call it a risk if that's what you wanted to do, that probability. We've got a couple of people asking about some individual stocks. So let's do that here. CBRE. What do you guys see here on CBRE? We've just been looking at like a zillion of these examples. Just flip it over. It's a momentum reversal plus. Again, kind of messier. We don't have the clear two waves, but it is the two waves. So it kind of shifts the momentum here. So here's the momentum reversal part where it's kind of the shifted range, pulls down, goes back up. This one has a little 2T added to it. So you're looking for avalanche continuation. I'm expecting this to keep going down. It is the exact same pattern as here. Flipped over and Oops, where did I put my oil chart? Oh, there it is. Here. So the difference on oil is just the trend placement is still more bearish on the larger time frame, so it's having a harder time with this bounce. It's actually basing out here. Hold on just a second, guys. I need to grab a drink quick. Let's see, SWKS. Where am I posting these? This is in the League of Traders forum on Telegram. So you can find us hanging out here pretty much anytime during the day or night. There's random people in here. We got a good crew. Basically, if you've ever purchased any course or anything with me, you have access to that room. So if you need help getting into it, email help@tonyhansen.com and Sarah will get you right in. NASDAQ 6,000 still looks like we could get a little bit of an avalanche forming on that again. I don't know if we've got enough time left in the day. Let's see, SWKS. Sorry, I got my charts over on the other side here. So, weekly. Looks like we got more room on the downside on this weekly, but it might go into range first and form like a handle for the cup with handle. I'd go up to the monthly. Maybe. Didn't like me to turn it on there. Yeah, monthly looks lower here too. So the concern is, as far as bears go, that this is forming in a trading range. Obviously, this has been a really awesome mover lately. But it gained momentum here. If this had been more gradual, it'd be like what we talked about earlier, where it was just a teeny tiny little higher high. So by doing that, it had a greater chance that it could go and break. If this had gone and done a little bit of a slightly higher high there with another 2T, this would be done. It would be totally turned around. And it's kind of in the middle. This isn't a higher high here. So this wasn't really a slightly higher high. So we got that 2T there. That turned it around short term, but I don't know if it's going to be enough to do it larger term. So if this had done that larger term, this would be an even stronger turnaround. So we had that same concept on a smaller scale. Let me show you on a weekly. So here's the high. Let's see if I can squish it up. Whoops. Why is this chart not working very well? There we go. So see how it didn't go to a higher high here? It fell a little short. So this did give you the 2T, but if this had been a slightly higher high there and then did a 2T, it would have turned around even faster, even harder. So here's the 2T, kind of went to do a retest, but didn't quite get up there. Oh, why did it tell me I lost my connection? I don't know. Can you guys still hear me okay? Okay, good. Weird. My Ninja Trader lost the connection for a second. I'll have to go see what's going on with there. Um, so on the downside, I do think that this can continue, but I don't think you've got a clear setup for it. So if it's something you're already in, cool. We've got, here's the pattern you're looking at. You've got the avalanche, tilted avalanche, 1, 2, 3. So now you're in the widening up zone. So what I'm expecting is this to widen up, just like JNUG did actually. So here, let me show you that JNUG. So JNUG, see this? This is a different version of the same pattern. So in SWKS, it's steeper. Here's the avalanche, here's the 1, 2, 3, here's the widening up. So on SWKS, let me repeat that. SWKS, it's steeper. The avalanche is a tilted avalanche. Starts out kind of like with the wedge here. That's the avalanche part. Here's the 1, 2, 3. So now you're in the widening up part at that previous support zone. So I do think we're going to head lower here. I don't know that it's going to be able to break the previous lows though yet. But if you're looking for it to continue into June, I think you're pretty well positioned. A lot of times actually when I'm trading patterns like this, I'll go protect part of my short and then add back in for the continuation. That's actually what I did yesterday. Let me show you guys on that drop after hours, that crazy one that just went whoosh. Here was my trade. So here's the avalanche. Now I was looking at a 2T in the overall market going into the close, but I didn't take it into the close. Actually, I was long going into the close and then had to close the position. Form the avalanche. So short of that, here's the 1, 2, 3. And then here's the widening up zone. This widening up zone was crazy widening up. But here's the 1, 2, 3. So here's the same pattern, avalanche, 1, 2, 3. It looks really tight here because everything's squished up. And then here's the widening up zone. So, I mean, technically I could have even shorted here, but I knew that with how fast this was dropping, looking at the impulse move size on the larger time frames, there was still room. So when this bounced here, I got some of it off here, watched for the 2 wave, shorted the 2 wave, was a little bit early, added back in. I was still in part of the position, so I'm just adding in it. Took partials here, added more back in here. And then used those slightly lower lows to protect. And it ended up going into trading, and I played the back and forth moves too. So that's what you're at, just probably not as big of a crazy widening up zone as we saw in the NQ yesterday. But same idea here. So see, this would be your avalanche zone, the 1, 2, 3, and then the widening up zone. So, I mean, technically it could have some bigger bigger moves. It can go and do the bigger widening up. But like JNUG didn't, but that could be because JNUG was slower too. That could be why it wasn't quite as big, quite as wide of swings. Usually the harder they fall, the bigger these swings can be. You can see that over here, actually. See the harder fall here? So you get some pretty decent swings. So even though this is support, it can still pull down a lot. Do we have fib fans on TradeStation? Yes. So they are called speed resistance fans. I keep meaning to put my toolbar back in here, but it's this one right here. Speed resistance fan. So if you're looking at like the main move here, the main two-way move, this would be your speed resistance fan to start with, and then you would move it up to here. So you can see these little stalls are holding pretty well, some of them. That's what it's called on TradingView as well. Yeah, a lot of times you might get confused and you're looking at GAN fan, the little thing can look the same. That's not the same. That is not what we're using. I don't know GAN well enough to be able to tell you how to use that tool very well and when not to use it. It's not something I've ever focused on. USO, just there's an avalanche. That's a perfect avalanche here. So here, daily on this USO, tilted Phoenix on the way up. Here's the avalanche. See 2 waves down, 2 waves up, and then 2 waves down. So this actually has more room to it. This is still looking lower. And then widening up zone. So this is going with a 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So then it can widen up and still keep going lower. This might even do it with 3 waves, the way this is forming here, because of the placement of this compared to the upside. Details, the fan on this, let's see. So what you're looking at is that 76.4% zone to help trigger your short. And that's what that template is that I gave you guys when you first logged in. Look at Weight Watchers, even Oprah can't help it. Oh, you guys, Weight Watchers and cannabis stocks. I would never invest in Weight Watchers. It always is just a position trading stock. You can see it had really awesome setups last year, but then here's your avalanche, and it just kind of kept going. Actually, this is a lot like what the market's doing today, coming off of that avalanche on the, well, like the 6,000 tick chart and smaller. So this, what you'll find happens at levels like this is every once in a while, it's going to get a spike and then it'll kind of keep going lower. Let me go up to a larger time frame. So I know we've talked about this a lot, but this is what happens. So it comes down to levels like this. This is your equivalent of your 1, 2, 3 huge move. So pretend this is like where JNUG was a few months back. So this can keep coming back down into here. At this point, I'm thinking we're probably going to a lower low. You'll get occasional spikes, but yeah, this is not good. Really, really not good. These pretty much don't recover. I don't think you're going to have much luck with Weight Watchers long term here. And it's down to a point where it's not even good for short-term trading because the prices are getting so bad. Should we be watching for like bankruptcy notifications on Weight Watchers? You've been short. If she was smart, she sold her shares. Yeah, this looks really bad. If Oprah couldn't save it, that last remake couldn't save it last year, that's kind of like a death blow. I don't know where they can go from now. There's too many other options out there that people are focused on. NQ is holding that support. So this is where I would want to see it try to go into like an avalanche on that 6K. We're going to go ahead and wrap up here, but let me show you. Here's actually a momentum reversal. One, two, three. This is your buy. And then 6K chart. What we're looking at is, could this go and base out and break lower? And actually, since it's rounding off, that's not even going to be as easy. So if that had kind of pivoted better, we'd be looking at that potential. But that's not going to be so easy now because you got the momentum reversal. It would have to do a momentum reversal plus to turn around that way. Stronger, but the odds of it breaking down are not going to be as good anymore. I have no idea. I've never tried the Weight Watchers food, so I don't know. Some of you are saying their food's not good for the price you pay. I think another thing too is like, I mean, there's so many things you can pick up in the supermarket now that are quote unquote healthier food. So people are thinking, oh, hey, I can get this pre-made stuff already. Tastes like cardboard. It's like gluten-free cauliflower. And now you've got like, what is it, Noom? I think Noom is like the latest one. Little tiny phoenix here. Tofu paste. Yeah, I don't know. I have never tried it. So there's that little phoenix. So what you can watch for now is momentum reversal plus into the afternoon on this. By the way, those are you in League of Traders. Next week we are switching. So we are going to be meeting midday every day instead of doing the 9 to 11 on Tuesday and Thursday. So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we are going to be doing 11 o'clock Eastern instead, starting next week. Here's measured move resistance. That's a big problem is sodium, Harvey. I think so many people are really watching their sodium more these days. And all of that pre-made stuff, really high sodium. I hope you're right, Richie, for her sake. I am, yeah, it's just, I think if we can get a momentum reversal plus, great. It's kind of pulling up a little bit higher. So we might not get that plus now. Usually with a momentum reversal plus, it would stall about here. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of a higher high, but it would stall there and then go and pull back and then give you the stronger setup. That actually helps turn things around so that you get those really sharp continued moves. So momentum reversal, you get the nice spikes like this. But when you get a momentum reversal plus, you can get spikes that go even better. So I love momentum reversal pluses, although I'm pretty fond of the momentum reversal too. But I'll get new charts for all of these patterns for you guys. dated ones, just like the ones that you guys can download here for the Phoenix and the Avalanche. And I'll post the new ones for all the other patterns in League of Traders. All right, guys, thank you for joining me here today. We are going to wrap on up, and I'll get this posted for you. So you can look for this at tonihansen.com/Friday. And I will see all the rest of you over in the forum this afternoon. You are very welcome. Have a great weekend, you guys. David, where do I post charts in lot? So there's two Telegram rooms. One is the League of Traders main channel, which is where you'll just see me post. It's moderated. It's just me. And that's for everybody that's in League of Traders. And then we also have the forum, which is for League of Trader members, plus anybody that has been in any of the boot camps. So if you've ever taken a boot camp or course from me, send me a message, email help@tonihansen.com, and Sarah will actually send you all of the login instructions there. So here's the Phoenix. Check that out. Two wave right into 76.4. One-to-one time development, declining volume. Here's a retest if you're a little late the first time around. And then here's your typical target. It just went faster. So it did the 1, 2, 3, and now it's at the widening up zone. So yeah, picture perfect example of the Phoenix as per the template that I gave you guys. And it's coming out of a momentum reversal. First low, second low, third low. This is like as pretty of a setup as you can get. It's just really small time frame. All right, since I missed this trade here, chatting it up with you guys, I need to go find me some trades this afternoon. So I'll see you over in the forum, and have a wonderful weekend, everyone.